So, this episode involves The Lion King. My own personal track record with Lion King stories on my web series has not been that good. This episode is only, 10 minutes? 11 minutes without my stuff being added in. So, we shall see. Right, crossing my fingers, I'm hoping it's not bad. Because I know that when Meg did Lion King stories, it was a very mixed bag, so we shall see. I will see you at the end of this video. See you in a bit. Hello, I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it, you listen. Yep, my eye's back to normal. And we're not reviewing a Pokemon fanfic today. We are, well, I think you guys kind of figured what we're reviewing. It's a Lion King fanfic. The Lion King 2, Scars of the Heart by Brasta Septim. Now, when this fanfic was sent to me, the person who sent me the link sent me a link to one of the chapters. And it was like a chapter in the middle of the story. This was sent such a long time ago, I'm not sure if the person wanted me to just read that chapter or something, but I read the chapter itself and it's like, no, that would just be as confusing as hell if I started the story from that point. So what we're going to do today, seeing the fanfic is too long to read in its entirety, we're going to be reading the prologue and the first chapter. This is rated fiction T, it's in English, it's friendship romance, it's Vitani and Kopa, it has 14 chapters, over 6,000 words, 42 reviews, 17 favorites, 5 follows. It's complete. It was last updated in July of 2011. So let's get started. Now we start with the story from Cinda's POV. Immediately after we retook the Pride Lands, everything settled down again. The hyenas fled back to the elephant graveyard, and the few lionesses loyal to Scar switched over to us. The only one I was worried about was Zira. She was extremely vengeful, and I wouldn't put it past her to try to kill me. Her cubs were better, though, her twins Nuka and Vitani. Nuka was a scruffy-looking cub who was shy and unhealthy, while Vitani was healthy and playful. Both had been born the day before I had arrived. Thank heavens. Otherwise, the drought and lack of food would have killed them. After a few weeks, the grass grew again. Trees were rejuvenated almost instantly. Rain came pouring down for days, and the herds returned. All was well. That accounted for almost everything. Now that I was king, I took Nala as my queen. I loved her as much as ever, and she was an invaluable aid to my rule. If it wasn't for her help and Zazu's, I probably would have been overwhelmed in a week. Ruling was a lot of work. I had to make the morning rounds with Nala, keep constant border patrol, set aside the kills, repel invaders. We didn't have many invaders, luckily. Most just rogue lines that drift in from time to time. My personal life with Nala was going absolutely great. After all we'd been through, we couldn't possibly leave each other. By the end of the first year of my reign, we already had a cub, Kopa. He was a small cub who looked more like Nala than me, but still had my traits, adventurous, curious, and unfortunately reckless. Luckily, he never disobeyed me, that I know of, that is. If he got into as much trouble as I did as a cub, I was going to have a lot of worrying to do. He loved to torment Zazu, another trait we shared, but had his mother's soft side. We couldn't be prouder parents. One morning when Nala and I were about to go to our morning rounds, we found Kopa sulking in a cave, something he never does. Nala walked up to him. "Kopa, what's wrong?" He looked up at his mother and said sadly, "I don't have any friends, Mommy." This came as a shock to me. Who wouldn't want to be his friend? Then again, we had never let him out of the cave for extended periods. Forgive me for being a little overprotective. My father, Serafina, Nala's mother, had been murdered years ago, and I didn't want to have the experience of losing another family member. We had to find him a friend. I looked at Nala, who immediately read my mind. Vitani, maybe? I shook my head in agreement. Vitani was nothing like her mother, and was not likely to go on suicidal revenge attacks just because a bad king was dead. Besides, he needed a friend. All right, I told him. We'll introduce you to Vitani. I hope you'll get along very well together. Author's note. I know it's not much of a start, but I'm writing this on a school computer a few minutes before class starts. I have to keep it short. Stay tuned for Kopa's POV. Okay, well that explains why there was a lot of showing and not telling so far for the prologue, but still, honey, don't be writing fanfics while you're at school. Write them at home. And why is the center aligned? That makes it very distracting and hard to read. Change the alignment, please. Alright, let's read the next chapter, and then we shall see what my verdict is for this story. Oh good, it seems like the second chapter is written in left alignment, thank God. I guess it's supposed to be in Kopa's point of view. I found myself sitting in the cave, hoping I was actually going to see someone my age soon. I looked towards the entrance of the cave to see a female cub my age walking towards me. She had a darker coat than me and electric blue eyes. She glanced in my direction, don't you mean at my dimension? In my direction, I should say, and promptly courtesied. She looked at me, a gleam in her eyes, and said sarcastically, "Hello, your esteemed highness. It seems I've been hired as your new friend by the queen." She looked from side to side and then said slightly envious, "Wow, Mom wasn't kidding when she said it was nice up here. This is pretty awesome cave you royals have got here. Only one problem." My head snapped up immediately and I said confused, "What?" She looked at me directly and said, "It seems like there's a lack of friend here." "Luckily," she said, drawing herself up proudly, "I'm here to remedy that problem." I moved towards her, curious and excited to finally meet someone else my age. "What's your name?" I asked. She leaned casually against the cave wall and said coolly, "I think I need to know your name before I give you mine." I looked at her, a little confused again. "It's Kopa, Prince Kopa," I said, sitting back on my haunches in regal position. She rolled her eyes and then flashed me a kittenish look. "Mine's Vitani, just Vitani," she said, moving towards me playfully. She crouched down and then suddenly leaped towards me. A couple of seconds later, I found myself on my back, Vitani's paws pinning me to the ground. "Pinned ya," she said, smirking slightly. I struggled, but the attempt was futile. I couldn't believe it. I'd been pinned by a girl. She looked down at me smugly. "I'll let you up, if you promise me one thing." I looked at her curiously. "What?" She gave me a mischievous smile and said, "Don't make me call you Prince, and don't call yourself Prince around me. If you want to be my friend, you can't be so cocky. Understand?" I nodded, but was still mystified. She thought I was cocky? If she was any haughtier, her head would likely explode. But I still responded, all right, just let me up." She sighed and took her paws off my chest, sauntering gracefully to the other side of the cave. Goodness, this girl I'd just met seemed more regal and dignified than either of my parents. I had a feeling we were going to be good friends. At that moment, Mom came into the cave. She chuckled softly and said to Vitani, "Ah, I see you two have met." Vitani nodded and courtesied low. She rose again and said, "Yeah, I've met Kopa already, and I already beat him in a game of Pinya once." I looked at Vitani, slightly embarrassed. "Hey, no fair. I didn't even know you were going to do that." Vitani smiled at me and said, "Of course not. Telling you earlier would take all the fun out of it." Mom looked down at me and chuckled softly. "Don't worry, Kopa. I used to beat your dad at that all the time when we were cubs. He got over being beaten by a girl rather quickly." She looked down at the both of us and walked out saying, "Have fun, you two." Once we were alone again, Vitani moved towards me friskily. I saw the gleam in her eyes and said, "What else are you in the mood to play?" She moved very close to me and then reached out and batted my shoulder. "Tag, you're it," she called, sprinting away. "Oh, no, I'm not," I said, and I chased after her in full speed. Man, that girl was fast. I couldn't get close enough to tag her. I sprinted after her, trying to keep up, but I was getting nowhere. Why? Because she was running circles around me. I mean, literally running circles around me. "Am I too fast for you, slowpoke?" She laughed over her shoulder as I tried in vain to catch her. After several hours of this embarrassing exercise, we both stopped to catch our breath. Vitani still undefeated. She gave me her trademark smug smile and said, "You're going to have to get faster if you want to beat me. I'm undefeated." Yeah, I'll admit it. I really wanted to wipe that smirk off her face. Without a second warning, I jumped towards her, intending to pin her like she had me earlier. After ending up in a tangle of paws, I somehow found myself in the same position as before, with Vitani smiling down at me. "Sorry, but you're going to have to do better than that. I'm an expert." After seeing what she had done, I certainly believed it. Then came a loud voice from outside the cave. "Vitani!" Vitani let me up a few seconds later, shaking the dust off her fur. She glanced back towards the cave entrance and said, "Sorry, Kopa, but Mom's calling. I'll see you around, okay?" I nodded, saddened that my friend was going. "Yeah, I'll see you too. Bye, Vitani," she smiled. "Bye, Kopa." And as she walked away, her coat illuminated by the dying sunlight that filtered into the cave. I knew this was going to be the start of a beautiful friendship. I guess it's okay so far. It's like a different take on The Lion King 2 in a sense. Before The Lion King 2 came out, there were several Lion King books that were written, and in a couple of the books it was implied that Simba had a son named Kopa. Now, I'm assuming that when Lion King 2 came out, Disney was trying to completely disregard the books and said that they weren't really canon, but there are people who still believe that the books are canon. I myself wrote a fanfic about, something that was supposed to happen in between The Lion King 1 and 2, where Simba pretty much explained what happened to Kopa. In my story, I had to be that Kopa got murdered by Zira, which would make sense. I mean, that would explain why she got banished and stuff with the other lionesses. I mean, it's all speculation and stuff, but this story seems like it could be pretty good so far. This chapter was way better than the prologue. I do wish that the author would go in and fix the prologue, though, get rid of the centered justification and whatnot. But aside from that, it's not too bad so far, aside from a couple of typos. Now, I'm not sure if the story stays good or not. I mean, the story has a good 14 chapters. I mean, you guys will have to see for yourselves. Well, I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it, you listen. And I have nothing to say. I mean, I guess that was okay. Not good, not bad, just okay. It was only 6,000 words, is that what she said? Well, that's actually not that long at all. But, then again, back then, Meg would only limit how much she would read because, there were some episodes that got so long. Especially when she was being forced to do those bloody Comics Nix challenges. I think, the final one, that was almost 2 hours. The one that I did for her. That episode's still up on her channel, but YouTube decided to mute all of it because when the creator did her spying and stuff, she had music in it, so, YouTube, instead of just getting rid of the music, which I'm sure they could have just done that while keeping the actual dialogue from us, they just muted the entire thing. I don't know, maybe, that's touchy. I mean, I'm thinking about maybe reposting that episode, but I don't know. That's a very touchy one. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the creator will. I digress. I don't know. I'll let the creator decide. She can, if she wants to repost that, she can. But I doubt she'll be able to because of the music that she had put in from back then. But yes, I guess this story was okay. It seemed like it read like a summary, though, especially in the prologue. I mean, the first chapter was better, but it was still very, I don't know. I'm under the impression it was kind of like a script formatting somewhat, or at least from first person. I digress, though. Well, if you liked today's lost episode of FanFic Critic, please be sure to leave a like and leave a comment, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next episode. Until then, cheerio.